Simpson desert. Don't try this at home, kids. We've got a brand new Sierra ZR trailer. It's like a US military spec, this thing. It's not an off-road camper. This thing's an expedition camper.
We may have to drop 100 litres of water.
We filled everything up just for the sake of it, just for the test. Really want to prove that trailers don't wreck the track, people wreck the track. Terrain Tamer have put on these crazy, wild parabolic springs. I absolutely love them. I only driven 1500 Ks on them, but there's only 3 leaves in them, the constant 500 kilo springs. Given our foam cell Ironman shocks a bit of a run on Cape York, but to me, nothing tests suspension like the desert, and towing a trailer is going to make it even harder. We're going to get down here, we're going to air down a lot. Straight into it, the biggest dunes first from the steeper side. Not messing around. High pressures is key for doing this sort of stuff. The thing is about Big Red, when you're going this way, there's no warm-up. You don't get to get a feel for your car or get a feel for the track or the sand or anything. Because everyone goes up here, it gets chopped up. It's not that steep, big bowl at the top. Anyway, tyres are down 14, 17, 14. We're going to need all the torque that Bluetooth diesel TDI tuning chip can give us. And we're low range. We're going to be using low range second. And I don't even know. I mean, lockers in sand don't usually do a great deal, but anyway, we might put it on anyhow. Here we go then. Righto. Get a feel for it now. The sand's not super soft, and we've got our tyres right down, so we're just rolling up pretty easy. Big soft bowl at the top here. That's the trick, tyre pressures, guys. It's not trailers that wreck tracks, it's people. Whatever. Our Big Red. First up is pulled down, Big Red. Now the second dune after Big Red is actually almost a bit steeper than Big Red itself. So anyway, the sand feels pretty firm. They had rain out here not long ago, so the sand, you can already tell the sand doesn't feel super soft. But this is a doozy, it's a steep one, so we'll be low range in it, probably third, and up we go. Coming up, Bill. Up track that slows you down, but actually second tyre pressures are going to get us up and over. We could have gone slow at the bottom, it was a bit bouncy, but you know, it's second journey, still get a feel for what's going on. But the sand is firm, the tyre pressures are making the biggest difference, so, and that's going to allow us almost to crawl up these dunes. No wheel spinning though. Good. Crossed a few dunes now. The Hilux is pulling little Sierra over him, absolutely no worries at all. This next one is a bit of a doozy as well. It's about 4, 5, 6, whatever. Another jam, but here we go, a bit of water too. could go lower if the sand was softer, which it can be. Yeah, we could go lower again. I wouldn't recommend really towing east to west anyway, in general.
Westbound again.
It's soft at the top here, but our tyre pressures and a bit of boot juice from the TDI chip. Too easy. Coming down the western side of the dune because most people approach from this way. It's a lot choppier, you can see. It's just people chopping it up coming the other way, but it's not trailers doing it, it's people doing it. Wrong tyre pressures, wrong gears, but mainly tyre pressures, and I suppose gears too, because you know if they're in the wrong gear, like they're just revving real hard and bouncing, but tyre pressures do most of the damage.
Trent's found a little bit of dead wood there. Gotta grab the wood when you see it. Not a lot of it out here.
It's not all sand dunes in the desert. Air Creek, it's dry though, but it is a bit of a washout, so hopefully we'll get some angles on the little Sierra. Yeah, so far, bloody great to tow. Great to tow. The little perfect for a smaller vehicle like the Hilux. There's the camera crew, they never get enough.
Looking good, looking good.
They got to reverse back down this. But that little trailer, if reverse is good too, by the way, even though it's really short, it reverses really, really well. Better crank up the old trailer brakes there actually.
Just a little pothole, you're right.
Oh, I just need to crank up the trailer brakes, it was pulling me down. A bit too much trailer brakes there. No, not enough. Oh, trailer brakes are an experiment when you're reversing, that's for sure. It's amazing the finite adjustment you can get using the Red Arc Tow Pro brake controller. Really, really sensitive, and it's incredible the difference it makes in the different terrain, those adjustments of the brake controller. So, incredible piece of gear, you've got to get one if you're towing. We've got a steep little dune in front of us, not big but steep, and there's two tracks going up it, and I want to try and show you. You're going to see it's so chopped up, and the only reason it looks the way it is because tyre pressures. Keep going on about it, but this is a good example. The track to the left is fairly smooth but very soft. The one to the right, people have been going up, but they've scalloped it all the way up, and we'll see if we can see that on this camera. Bill's having a couple of cracks. Hilux is going to need to use all its extra torques. Right, now you can see there the one on the right, if you can see how scalloped it is, and even the one on the left starting to get a bit scalloped at the top.
It's soft to the north, that helps if you're in four-wheel drive.
Yep, two-wheel drive, that'll wreck the track every time. It's no hero feat doing two-wheel drive across the desert, I can tell you. We're going to take the scalloped one because they're shallow scallops. The one on the left's a big scallops and they're a bit rutted, and this one on the right looks a bit more challenging, so we'll give it a shot. I didn't expect not to get stuck. This is a little dune. I thought we were going to make it, and we did a little snatch off the top here. It's pretty soft. Yeah, mate. And generally in the desert, that's all you need. Just a little help to crest the dune, and then you're on your way again. Always good to travel with a mate when you're in the desert so you can help each other out. Knew the Luxy would be getting a few recoveries, so we left the camp boss a kinetic rope on the front. When we got to camp, we thought we better break out the max tracks, which when you're traveling solo and towing a trailer, come in very, very handy. We specially ordered them to be the same colour as the trailer.
Well, custom.
Oh,
Oh, look at them.
They are pretty sexy. And another stubby holder with a bottle opener in it. You can't have enough of those.
We can, because they're in every cupboard and every drawer we open.
There's one major key you got to know with max tracks or this type of recovery. You just don't spin your wheels. If you don't spin your wheels, you're pretty much good.
Oh, that's a pretty close match.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
See how bouncy this is, and this is why I also like doing the Madigan line, because it's less travelled, way less traffic, which means less wreck and everything like that. Because it's so chopped up, you can't get a bloody run. On that note, it was time to get some miles under our belt, get to Popple's Corner, set up camp, and the next day we're going to tackle Knoll's track. With the right tyre pressures and the right gear selection and a little bit of technique, you can pretty much roll up and cruise over most of the dunes. Bouncy this one, isn't it?
Yeah. Fried rice, all my veggies, a little egg omelette, the turmeric, garlic, onion.
We're a couple of days into the desert now, and we're heading south on Knoll's track and dropping down to the WAA line. I'd highly recommend going this way. It's a nice change, sort of south between the dunes, so you get a bit of a break of going over the dunes. It's really nice scenery heading down here, and also you're going to have less people travel down this way, so it's
Definitely
nice.
smoother.
Yeah, it's not as rough for sure. It's amazing how the scenery changes actually. It's a big salt lake, this one.
It's huge.
You get stuck out of the middle of here, there's no way you'd have enough windrope to get across. You're like a kilometre of it. We've got a bit, we don't have that much.
And it looks dry, but when you stand on it, it's just slippery
Yeah,
mud. There's just like a crystallised layer on top
yeah.
that looks dry.
You want to be extremely careful driving on salt bands, especially if there's been any rain or you're suspect at all or it's tidal. Take extra care.
Camel noise is the weirdest noise I've heard.
That was so cool last night. Those camels nearly came into our camp. They were literally probably only 30 metres. The Hilux and the camper are going good, loving it. We got recovered once up a soft dune, and look, in the desert when you're travelling with others, the quickest way to get yourself going really, to my mind, is just a quick snatch.
And Bill loved every minute of it.
You always feel more manly when you recover someone. Most of the dunes we're just rolling up and cruising over. Now the key is, if you aren't going to make it,
stop and don't dig any holes. Back it up and have another crack. And use a little more right foot. That'll do it. Back it off as soon as you can and just roll over the crest.
Dropped onto the WAA line now. There's not a lot of people in the desert this year anyway, and there's even less on here. Just got our mate Bill's tracks in front of us. Coming up to our first of a couple of soft dunes. So we've been in pretty much high range, first, second, most of the time. All day today so far, but it's going to be a low range job, these ones. Let's go. There's a little run up section here for this one. It's going to be a bit bouncy, I would suggest. It's definitely softer than we've had before. We'll have another crack at that. I think we're just in too high gear. If you get stuck, just don't spin your wheels, you know, just stop, because once you start spinning the wheels in sand, you're done. You're not going really any further. And this is where it gets tricky with a trailer. You got to practice your backing skills, because backing down off dunes like this can be a bit tricky. So we're kind of third low range then, and I was looking for second, just didn't get there fast enough. We've got our chip all the way up, we've got our iDrive all the way up to 9, we're in low range. Second, the Hilux is going to be working, it's going to earn it, this one. Slipped third, now back to second. Hopefully we can just crawl up this last bit. So the key there, you know, we were just at the crest and we were going to start to spin, but instead of spinning, I backed off and then just let the tyres roll up over. Because quite often in sand, at some point you're better to just go super slow and go over as opposed to spinning up. But on those dunes, you need the momentum to get yourself to the top where you can back off. So anyway, there we go, that was fun. Thanks little Hilux. Let's turn the iDrive back down now.
It was time for the boss to have a drive, and it was getting hot. There'd been no rain in this part of the desert and the sand was getting really soft. You can see Steph did everything right here, backed off before the car stopped and dug holes. Perfect.
Okay, this is definitely probably one of the softer dunes I've driven. Hopefully I don't have to reverse down it. Big bump. Damn it. This will also test my reversing skills. Want to hit that bottom with any speed.
Doing well with the backing.
Pretty hard to do it straight. I think Trent's being sarcastic with me because I'm like a snake. So any hot tips for me?
It's a tough one when there's a hole at the bottom, but yeah, you're just gonna have to punch it as hard as you can without actually breaking anything, I suppose. But once you get up past that thing, just momentum's the only thing that's gonna get you up, really.
Snatch from Bill. You're so close. Let's have one more crack.
Alright, attempt 3.
Yeah, we did go back and fill in those holes, and it was bumpy before we got there, but certainly didn't help having to play on it. So if you do that sort of thing, go back and fill your holes up.
I didn't do punch it that well. I'm actually scared of going fast up the bouncy dunes, so hence I'm stuck again.
Okay, it's coming tight.
Another easy recovery thanks to the kinetic ropes. Make sure you got plenty of those when you go to the desert. The daytime temp is rising, and there's been less rain down in this part of the desert by the looks of it, and the sand is getting softer, but as is the temperature rising, so is the tyre pressures. So the front ones we'd snuck up to about 19, so we just dropped them back down to 14 hot, and the backs here, they were pretty good at 17, but I'm dropping them to 15, and the trailer's on 14, so it should make a good difference. So always keep checking them. The temperature changes things, and the sand, if sand gets hot, air temperature's hot, air in your tyres gets hotter, expands, gets harder, so keep checking them. You got over 1,000 sand dunes to perfect your driving, and you do start to get a real feel for it.
Just. We're only about 35 k's south of the French line, but the rain obviously never really made it down here, and it's much drier. And there's no real vehicle prints to follow, but we are following a couple of dingoes. We haven't seen anyone down this part of the desert yet, not anyone else. Filling in a couple of holes for Steph. This is a big dune, it's hot in the day, and the sand is very soft. So it's a big one, so I'm just filling in holes. And when it's this soft, it makes it very tough. There's only one way she's getting up here, and that's going to be flat out. It's just how it is, a part of the fun of driving in the desert, I suppose. Bit of fun on the dunes, with or without a trailer. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. Punch it, punch it. Stop. I just want to stop before we start digging more holes.
I don't think I'm gonna get up here, but you could have a go for it.
The responsible thing to do is to get Bill back and snatch us up. So I guess we'll do that. Things weren't getting any easier, and it was starting to wear down on us. This ended up being a long, tough day, and there was no sight at the end, just more sand dunes.
Trent's going back down for a take 2 on this one. It's pretty choppy, pretty soft. Let's see how he goes.
This is well chopped up before we got there. We didn't help, but we did fill them in the end. Now you can see here where I'm off the ruts and I'm on the side of the dune and kind of make the new track a bit. That really helped a lot. But not quite enough. I'm going to use the max tracks. Should get us out pretty easy.
work to treat. They're an amazing invention. Thanks, Brad. Whew. We did dig some big holes then. I mean, it's very soft, very steep, very long. We've got 8 max trucks out, just using them. Slowly getting to the top, but the shovel's out and we're filling in all the holes. I just want to show you what happens, and one car can do this. And it's nothing to do with anything else but tyre pressures. And one pass over a soft dune with hard tyre pressures will turn it into this. Look at that. No clear definable tracks, and just chopped. It's just bunny hopping and chopping all the way up. Now once that's happened, it makes it very, very difficult now for anyone else. This one's just not going to be fun. If you're going to come out here and tow trailers, just don't go east-west. You know, it is extra challenging, and you do, yeah, I mean, there's some parts that are really tough. It's a steep one again, steep, but it's so chopped up. I could almost guarantee you that it's not from trailers, but no one goes this way except idiots with trailers. Best method I find, get up on the ruts. Don't go, you try not to go in them. Stay out of the ruts. So much easier when you're not getting smashed by bumps. Let's find somewhere good to camp. How's the setup? That's our last morning driving in the desert, the WA line. We've only got about 30 k's to go till we get to the rig road, and that kind of ends the dunes. But the dunes on this track are quite big. So mornings, I love driving in the mornings in the desert. The sand is the firmest and coolest, the tyres are the softest, and the suspension is working at its best. But as the day gets on, it gets hotter, things change quite a lot. We've got a nice dune in front of us. We're going with the, we like the theory. We're using the locker, the rear locker. We're just going to use high range first on this one. And whenever they're chopped up, we're just pulling over and trying to ride on top of the ruts, and it's really smoothing out the ride a lot. I did a lot of experimenting with the locker on this trip, and in short, it does help you if you're using it during the run-up on the dune. But if you get stuck and then try and use your locker, it's not going to help you in sand. You're just going to dig yourself a bigger hole. Low range probably would have been better on that one. The problem is, with modern cars, when you get up a bit of speed, you're in sand and the wheels start to spin a bit, traction control kicks in, and then it just slows the whole car right down. But anyway, we got up and over, so using low range will generally solve that issue. Going to be a challenge. It's always a challenge when you go, it goes 1 S, 2 S's, and then a hook at the top. Whenever you got to turn corners, you wipe off speed. Pretty firm so far. It does get soft here though, so I'm going to punch it here. It's not too choppy though. I'm going to back to second. And the revs pick up now. And go left like Bill said, up and over. So momentum, we're not digging any holes, keeping up a good pace. You're only digging holes if you're either bunny hopping or you're getting bogged. This is going to be another interesting one. S-bends and dog legs and chop and soft and...
There's a little switchback at the top here.
Yeah,
The day had just started and it was about to turn into a marathon event.
Alright, we're low third, everything's on, and we're going to try and use a bit of Bill's tracks. He's used the technique of going off to the side a bit. So you can't avoid those. We're going to go back to second now. Oh, bouncy, bouncy. Soft bit at the top. I hate the bouncing. You just don't have any choice on those things, you know. You just got to, and that's where quality comes into it. Because if you start doing that with, you know, a cheap, nasty products, you just break stuff. It just fails on you, and then you're stuck out here. You just can't afford to have that happen. Okay, nearly had enough of this now. This is a rough one, long and soft. I just checked all the tyres and I've dropped them all down to 13 everywhere. Got everything cranked up. I'll just check the tuning chip just to make sure. Tyre drive's on as well. On, okay. Alright. I'm not sure we're going to get up this one. I'm not sure we're going to get up it. Second. In the ruts now. First. Get a snatch. Tell him we'll get a snatch.
There's a whole nother section and then a soft dune on top. Really soft up there.
I'll get the shovel out and I'll fill in my holes. Don't do that with metal shackles, please. Never. Soft shackles.
Ow! Is there a spike in my butt? Spiky butt.
East-west on the WAA is probably the most challenging of the crossings, just because the dunes in this southern part of the desert are really big. They're big dunes and there's a lot of them, whereas in the northern part it gets less. It's longer crossing but smaller dunes. You know, this is the ultimate test for the Hilux and the trailer and all the gear that we've put on the vehicle recently. Shocks, the tyres, those rear springs, the locker, lights, the solar, all that stuff is getting about the biggest flogging you could possibly give them. Here's another one. Tyres are low and we should just be able to crawl up this one without too much heartache. Coming from the west, it's a completely different story. Completely different story. That's why for me, going on this track, heading west, This is the most challenging as far as dunes goes, for sure. We'll try our kind of low and slow, because that has been working pretty good for us. Very choppy and bumpy, this one. Again. Now, I do like low and slow, but it doesn't work on every dune. Now we've got the task of reversing back. Sometimes just got no other choice but to give it the berries, as they say. Alright, here we go again. Hopefully this one the last. Oh! That was a monster dune. Wow. Holy chopped up thing. There's more massive ones. Okay, we're not far from the end. We're getting closer.
And it was time for a well-earned break and a cup of coffee when we hit the rig road. But wasn't over yet.
Yeah.
Fin scan. It's an Australian made product, mainly marine, but they're coming into full drive and caravanning and stuff, but it just controls everything. So we can look on here at our water tanks, shows us the levels of our tanks. We can check our batteries, how many volts, hours left. We can look at advanced. We can see the solar panels pumping in 9.4 amps, and we're running a 135 watt projector solar panel on the roof of the Hilux. We can also control our sockets. We can do all the lights on, water pumps, rear sockets, so on. Our other fridge corner if you want it. Lights. So for example, this one here, pantry yellow, comes on yellow, or pantry white. It's just awesome. It's a great system. Now the other thing that I really like, we've put in a projector IntelliWave 2000 watt inverter, and basically it's the creme de la creme of inverters. And what I've really love about it is when it's on, what I've found with other inverters, just by having them on, they drain batteries, they just kill them. But this thing's really good. It's easy on the batteries, only draws a little bit what it needs, and you can check how much you're drawing at any given time. You can see how much watts are coming out. It's 0.7, there's basically nothing plugged into it. You can see how many volts are going in. It's just a great system, and it's all hidden away. So between the projector inverter for all our 240 stuff, and then the FinScan interface there to control everything, and you can actually get this on an app as well, which we have. So when we're up in our rooftop tent, or we can control it from in the car or whatever. So it's just an awesome system. Oh, we're coming up to Perny Bore, which on the rig road. To be honest, I just want it to end. It's 3:30 in the afternoon and it's mid-30s outside. This truck's just turned into a boat. I found it a bit spongy in Cape York, but now with the trailer on and doing the desert, which is hard on suspension anyway, but I'm going to have to up the ante in the shock department, I think. We're just hitting these little bumps and then it's just like a rocking horse. Oh, and every dune I see, I just think, oh, no more. Anyway, just past Perny Bore, not stopping, just going. I think the sand dunes are finally done. Just like we just come over the last one. It's absolutely incredible how quick it changes, and just like that, you're on the plains again. Almost running no brakes on the trailer in the sand, so it's important that you do turn it back up for high-speed driving. We take a wrong turn and land on Mars. To the left, right, in front, basically as far as we can see, it's just rocks. never ceases to amaze me. It's got to be the harshest, one of the harshest places in the world. We pressed hard to find anywhere more remote, less inhabited.
And yet, life goes on in the desert, in the arid centre of Australia. Really is an amazing place.
We are literally 2 kilometres from Mount Dare, and looks like the front brake pad is wedged down there.
Oh, so close to Mount Dare. Man, it's killing me this trip.
It's only the one. We're going to have to straighten it
Yeah, to
drive it safely.
The locator pins come out of here.
That's this.
And now, if we drive without that, the brake pads can pop out. Cable ties?
I'm quite sure we can straighten it. It's just a normal split through, they're just bloody. They're not
With Dr. Doolittle Bush Mechanic zip tie.
That's be a good mechanic. Just got to be a bush mechanic. Then until I get to a real mechanic. Well, we made it to Mount Dare, and after you cross the desert, this place is like an oasis. They don't have everything, but they got exactly what you need. I got to say, that's been one of the most grueling trips we've done in a while. I think coming across that WAA line, if you want big dunes, that's where you're going to find them. And coming from the east, we've done it before, but the little Lux towing the camper, it's just punishing on gear, you know. Suspension, especially suspension. And it always is taxing the desert on suspension, but we found the limit with this suspension, unfortunately, with the shocks particularly. They've only been on a few months and they've been acceptable for us. We're going to swap them out, we're going to invest in some better ones. I do think they've been okay, but for us what we do, it's just a bit much for them. A couple of the standout things though, the Terrain Tamer parabolic springs that we put in, crazy awesome. So I'd definitely be looking at those if you've got leaf sprung vehicle, check them out because they're really good. They're a good ride, they're really light, they're like modern leaf springs if you want. Anyway, check them out, they've been really good. Tyre's always impressive because even in sand they just cop a massive beating. You know, we had them down on the back to 14 pound with a trailer on and all the gear in the back loaded up for tours as we would. It's been a real, for us this year hasn't been so much about the tours, it's been about testing gear, and this really puts stuff to the absolute test everything. That AOR Sierra, we hooked it up at the showroom and we drove straight out here with it. It's the first production one they've done and it's bloody impressive. It's held up really well. It's done everything that you could possibly want it to do. It's kept the dust out, it's withstood all the electrics and all the construction of it, the suspension and everything about it. Hasn't missed a beat, as you would expect from a really good quality built Australian made trailer. So super happy with that, and there's a few things on there I'll show you later that really stand out. G'day buddy,
Yeah.
How are ya?
Yeah, it's been right there.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, mate, yeah.
Fuel wise, we really burnt some fuel. Let's just do the calculation now. So the test for us this trip was to load up basically as heavy as we could go and go the hardest way we know across the desert to test the gear and test out the fuel economy that we've got. Now we put in that TDI tuning chip, which has been awesome. We've got an iDrive, which is unreal. So TDI tuning chip, $100,000, probably the best investment you could do after you've got your essentials. Under $500 though, the iDrive is probably the next best thing you can do. We've got both. iDrive's been on 9 nearly the whole time, full on. Turbo chip up full bore. We've carried all the water that we could, 260 litres and 170 litres of juice. Plus all the gear we take when we run tours, so heavy. So the test was this, to see, one of them was to see what sort of mileage we got. Now we've done 532 Ks and we burnt 152 litres. We're burning 28 and a half litres 100. That's up there. That's about as much as a Hilux could possibly burn. Now, that sort of trip isn't normal. You know, take me back to the Madigan line because, you know, the dunes there are not as big, the track's not as rough, it's longer, but it's just, for me, it's nicer, and our guests are going to love it. And we're not going to burn anywhere near that amount of fuel on there. So that's a great test. I'm really happy that that's what we burn, actually. And with that, the desert is done.